Well, I'm really pleased today we've got Mat and Suzanne with us, and Mat and Suzanne moved here over the summer, but it wasn't really a local move, so I'm going to let them explain where they've come from, who they are, and a bit of their background.
Yeah, so it's lovely to be with you this morning. So I'm Suzanne and this is Mat, and we have two children, Seth and Esther, who are 10 and 8. And yeah, this summer we moved from Albania, where we've been working with mission organisation. Mat had been working in a local NGO, and I've been working in a school. So yeah, it was a really big move to finish with our ministries, to move country, so to pack up our house, sell lots of things, put it all in a truck, send it here, and then just for us to move here, to spend 2 weeks in quarantine in Hadfield, in a place we really didn't know at all, and then begin the process of adjusting, settling, and even trying to get our cat and dog all the way from Albania as well.
Yeah, we've been overseas for just over 17 years, so a big adjustment for us. 11 years in Lebanon, and then 7 years in Albania. So yes, a big move. It's an interesting time of the year.
Yeah, wow. And how have you found it? I mean, coming back, you know, you've gone from one country to a different country, which is a big thing at any time, but in lockdown, I mean, as well, the whole kind of, and the whole pandemic going on. How's that been? What have you noticed particular differences between coming here compared to how things were in Albania, for instance?
Yeah, I think one of the things that has been a huge challenge, I mean, although we had some really tight restrictions in Albania, I think, you know, the length of time that we'd been there, we very much felt part of a small community. So even in those short times when we were able to go out and about, even though we had social distancing, we were, you know, we would meet neighbours, we'd meet different friends and be able to have those conversations. And I think stepping into a situation where people are taking the restrictions seriously, you know, there is that sense of distance. It has actually been quite lonely and quite isolating, and I think it's just raised those questions as to how do we make friendships, how do we get to know people, how do we join a church, how can we start to build relationships. And I think for both Seth and Esther, it's been a real challenge at school. You know, they've been really welcomed into their new classes, but that where we would invite people around to our house for a cup of coffee, get to know their friends' parents, let the kids have play dates together, those kind of things, we've just not been able to do. So I think it's really kind of taken us aback a little bit in those kind of usual things we would do to start building friendships.
Yeah, I mean, moving's a huge thing, but anyway, but making those, you know, adapting now, getting to know community, and I suppose there's a challenge to us all there in how we are community, how we welcome people anyway, and maybe in our culture we're not so good at that, but doing that at a time like this, even more so really, and how we look out for one another and care for one another. And how have you found, where have you found God in the middle of all this? How's this impacted on your faith, because this must have been a real testing time for you?
I think it has been a real testing time for us. I think, you know, when you're moving away from something that you know and love, you're taking a step of faith, and there's almost a sense of, yeah, God, there's a reason why I'm doing this. And it's not always that the grass is going to be greener as you make that move, but there is a sense that you're doing something as part of God's plan for you. And I think the impact of the coronavirus have meant this year is so unprecedented in so many ways. And, you know, what our plans were, you know, what we thought a good transition would be, has all been thrown out of the window. So, you know, we do kind of, there's been times when we said, God, we don't get this. We're taking these steps of faith, but we're not quite sure where we're going in this. And I think that it has been a challenge for us. You know, we've neither of us have found work yet, and that's been hard for us. You know, we both enjoyed the jobs we were doing overseas, and we're, you know, very committed to them, not just professionally, but, you know, there was a calling into those jobs. and to suddenly find ourselves without that that day-to-day activity has been hard. And I think, you know, there's been moments where we've there's I forget, there's a book that we read a couple of years ago, and it was talking about just clinging on to the fringes of God's cloak, or Jesus's cloak, just clinging on and just trusting that something's going to happen, but we don't quite know what. So there has been times when it's been a real challenge, but I think it's also been a time of real growth as well, because I think, you know, in that dependency, in that sense of not knowing, there has been a sense of, well, God, we do trust you, and, you know, somehow these things are being worked out for your glory somehow. And we you know, the timing of things, we've had health issues within our family, and, you know, had we not traveled back at the time we came, we wouldn't have been there for family. So somehow, although it's been hard, there has been a sense of God at work in that time, and it has strengthened our faith. It doesn't mean that everything's all rosy, but there is a sense that our faith has been, you know, we've taken steps of faith, and our relationship with God has deepened during this time.
Yeah. Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that and being very honest as well. And it's wonderful you're here with us. And I'm sure over the next few months, people will see you, will get to know you, and we hope and pray as well that, you know, for jobs and for getting the children continuing to settle in school and all the rest of it, that God blesses you during this time. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.